And this is today the 85th Security Thought Leadership webinar. When you think we were going to start with just 5 and see how it went, it tells you something about how these have gone. This is the 85th. And we're here every Tuesday and Thursday, normally at the much later time. But today we're on a topic where we're going to be broadcasting to Asia and the eastern part of the world. So for that reason, we're starting a bit earlier. And the idea of thought leadership is that what we do is we critique and discuss what's going on today in order we get a better type of security tomorrow. And that's what we're going to be doing on our topic today, which is about learning from Southeast Asia. What does the new normal look like? Now, here's the point. In the Western part of the world, there's a sense in which Asia was the first group of the first part of the world to get into this COVID-19 crisis and is the first part of the world to come out of it. That's the perception in some parts of the Western world. And so we thought it would be a good idea to revisit what can we learn from different parts of Asia. And today we've got panelists, we hope to have 3 actually, but one has yet to join us from Singapore, but we've got one from Malaysia and one based in Thailand. And we're going to be doing what we always do. We're going to first of all ask them to introduce themselves. And once we've done that, we'll then invite them to make their opening statement. Now we've got a question and answer button at the bottom of your screen. If you want to get some questions in early, we'll endeavour to incorporate that in the webinar. Some of you have sent questions in advance, so we'll certainly deal with those. So without further ado, I'm going to go to my panelists and ask them to introduce themselves. And first, over to you, Aaron. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Of course, thank you. So my name is Aaron. My full name is Aaron de Boutillier. I come from a small island called Jersey between England and France. I've been living in Thailand for the majority of my adult life. I run a security and investigations company with offices in Singapore and Thailand. I'm also the regional vice president for ASIS International, Region 13B. I've also a published author on a book called And Then One Morning, which describes how I survived the tsunami of 2014, of which I was the sole survivor. So I lost everyone on that day. So I have a unique experience about crisis. I have a master's in criminology and criminal psychology, and currently a PhD student. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I didn't know about the PhD. David, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. Hi, good evening, everybody. Good afternoon and good morning, wherever you are. My name is David Nisadore. I am a lecturer, a senior lecturer in Saito University College, which is a little college or university college in Malaysia. And I come from the faculty of the Security Academy. And a little bit about myself. I've been in the industry for 20 years. Yeah, I was working in a little bank in Malaysia. First, I was doing security, physical security management at the level of a security supervisor. After 20 years, I'm a master's degree holder. Finished up my master's at the end, and I did go back to academia after 20 years. And now I'm a lecturer for the past 9 years in Saito University College in Malaysia. A little bit more about myself. I'm also a doctoral student right now, and I will be finishing my doctoral degree very soon. And yeah, that's about me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, look, two people who are students who are actually studying as well for their PhDs. That's fantastic. Okay, we've also got Jack hoping to join us, who's just trying to connect from Singapore. Right, let's go back to Aaron then and ask for his opening statement. Aaron, 3 minutes from you, please, on your thoughts on this topic. Up to you now, Aaron.
Okay, no pressure, 3 minutes being timed. Okay, so the first one was describing the factors that characterizes this region. And I think the important thing for people to realize about Asia as a whole is it's very much a collectivist type of society, meaning that people, because of the education and the culture, will tend to look at the bigger picture outside of just themselves, right? Looking after their family and looking after their community. And maybe that's something that is lacking in the West. And maybe that's one of the reasons why there's been success here, because people will listen to what is being told of them. There is a certain degree of fear and scaremongering, especially in Thailand. You know, if the media say something, then you will see very quickly that everyone takes it very seriously, and they will follow it. There'll be no protests in the street about it. There's protests in the streets about other things, but not about anything that could essentially affect the community. And that's where I think it's interesting to focus in on this collectivist kind of attitude. That is a uniqueness to Asia that I think is not in the West. Areas where security have been tested from my experience, I think everyone will say the same thing. Two key areas is cybersecurity and working at home policies. These two things have created huge problems for all the multinationals that I've been dealing with in my region. Video conferencing software, compromising your own computers is a big issue that people are now discussing, and I'm still yet to see a platform that is 100% safe. Working from home policies, another area where traditionally maybe people didn't put a huge emphasis on it, but now there is a huge emphasis. So to round that one off, I would say cybersecurity is the biggest area where I've seen a huge increase in the need for new knowledge. As far as what's emerging, it's a bit of a personal thing for me. It's something that I teach and lecture on. So I just want to touch on it briefly. Crisis management leaders and people that are first responders have traditionally worked on what they have learned academically and a certain amount of operational experience. However, for the most part, no one has ever been taught how to manage their own emotions when dealing with the type of crisis that we've had to deal with in the past year. That is to say that almost most people I talk to have no idea what their amygdala is in their brain. They have no idea that when their phone rings at 3, 4, 5 in the morning and everything is getting worse within their company, they have cybersecurity issues, they have family issues, they have COVID issues, they have all of these things, that they themselves start to suffer from mental disorders and inner management concerns. And what I'm trying to do as a new normal for security professionals is actually say to people, this idea of resilience being an endurance thing, which traditionally it used to be, right? Resilient, you know, you can battle it out, you can fight it out, is actual nonsense. Resilience is more about having the ability to recharge yourself and control your emotions so you are better positioned as a leader or as a crisis management leader to actually manage the crisis in front of you. If you can't manage your own emotions and your own internal struggles, how on earth are you meant to handle the struggles of a corporation or a multinational? So for me, to wrap up my 3 minutes on the final sector on the new normal would be more training on internal education of how to manage yourself with stress and crisis.
Thank you very much indeed. How interesting. I will definitely come back to that, Aaron. Thank you very much indeed. Don't forget, if you want to ask a question, the question and answer button at the bottom of your screen, if you use that, I'll endeavour to involve you in it. David, over to you. Your opening statement, please.
Yeah. Regarding the factors that characterize the region's response to COVID-19, in Malaysia, security has taken the frontline issue. So the Malaysian national response, or the National Security Agency in Malaysia, has given the security industry, the private security industry, they have given them what is known as a green light for them to proceed to actually come on board the National Council and to do provide all the private agencies or private companies with security, in the sense that they are the frontliners. They have been endorsed as having the go-ahead, to proceed with their work, and that is the factors in Malaysia. Now, most of what is happening in Malaysia is these private security industries being allowed to go and perform their duties. So when they are allowed to go and perform their duties, they are classified as essential personnel. Yeah, that's number one. Number two is when we also have foreign workers who are Nepalese security personnel who have been brought in by these private security companies or suppliers to perform the work. So in that sense, they have also been given the green light, of course, being company oriented and disciplined. They have been brought forward, and also they perform the duties as well as essential personnel. That's in Malaysia. When you talk about security has been tested, now most of it, because of the MCO or the Movement Control Order, most of these private security private organizations or commercial organizations have actually been, because of they have actually lost a lot of revenue due to this MCO. So, and therefore, provision of requirement for security of these big infrastructures and these companies have been reduced. And these private security organizations, which is regulated by the Ministry of Home Affairs and also the National Association of Security Personnel, they have also brought in a lot of things to ensure that at least there is the contractual security providers still maintain some sort of business continuity. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Just on that last point, though, just so I understand. So I understand the security sector has been suffering. What's been done to enable them to get more work? What precisely?
Well, there's a migration of from physical security to actually moving into the, of course, the IR 4.0. You talk about the big data, the IoT, the cyber physical area of control, and retraining, upskilling is being done by these private companies, especially the proprietary as well as in-house services, which are actually retraining them to to understand and to actually apply knowledge in order that they can actually perform duties and tasks, reducing physical manpower and upgrading technological understanding as well as performance. In that sense, private security companies actually are regenerating their income.
Okay, thank you. I want to ask you both a question, just almost a clarification. We ran a webinar on Asia back in early September, and Danny Chan on that webinar warned against us getting too carried away with the idea of vaccinations for all sorts of things, that they may take a delay to come. We don't know whether they're going to work. You've got to get supply. All these sorts of issues are just cropping up now. Where are you in your countries? If I could ask about Malaysia and Thailand, Aaron first. Where are you with vaccinations? Where are you with the response to this? Just so we get a context for where you are in the world in Asia. There's a sense over here, it's all okay in Asia, you're sorting this out. Aaron?
I don't know of anybody anywhere that is sorting it out appropriately. But anyway, I can't talk, as I'm not an expert on the government policies on vaccines. All I can tell you is what I read in the papers, which of course is most probably completely wrong. At the moment, Thailand has ordered vaccinations for mid-February for frontline staff. The amount ordered, I think, is 50,000. I mean, I'm just trying to remember from memory what I read in the paper. Which vaccine it is, I don't know. There's also controversy over that because of connections. Once the frontline staff have been vaccinated, then there is a program, like I believe there is in all the countries, to roll out to the next sector, the next sector, the next sector. The interesting thing is how that affects people like myself and tens of thousands like me that are expatriates living in Thailand, so I'm assuming that the government won't give me a free vaccination, not that I particularly want one. But if I did need one, then I'm assuming I'd have to go out and purchase that from a private hospital. I have noted that a lot of private hospitals are stocking up on absolutely astronomical amounts of vaccines because there's a huge business there, right?
Oh, really? Okay. And how big a deal is where are you in relation to COVID in Thailand? I mean, are you in the midst of a crisis, or are you past it?
Very subjective question.
Well, let's have your view. Let's have your view.
My view is that we're in a huge crisis. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, we've had provincial lockdowns. Hotels are going out of business left, right, and centre. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't order alcohol. Everything is closed. You can't travel here. You can't travel. It is a crisis.
Yeah, that sounds like a crisis. Okay, David, what about in Malaysia? Where are you right now? Just so we get a sense of your part of the world.
Just as Aaron has mentioned just now, in Malaysia, we are undergoing lockdowns again, movement control orders. We also have the emergency enactment, which has been, but it's not a total emergency. It is not like the emergency back in 1968 or 1948, 1960, which there was a communist insurgency and all this. But this emergency this time is actually a pandemic emergency, which means that it allows the government to actually negotiate with private institutions to utilize their resources in order that the government can actually use them to control the pandemic. In these cases that, if you're talking about vaccines, of course, Malaysia has also procured vaccines and etc., and all these sort of things. But however, just like Aaron said, there are levels of course, frontliners get the doses, and the doctors, and eventually security personnel also will be in line to collect to get these vaccines. But the efficacy is the question. That is what is actually bothering most of Malaysians or Asians. I think Aaron will agree with me in this. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Martin.
Aaron. Yeah.
Just a quick thing. When this first happened last year, I think Thailand was in the top 3 globally in their response to COVID. And again, I think that is partially because the government were extremely strict right out the gate. And they were extremely strict with a society that listens. And for me, as an expatriate, I was told, when you leave your house, you put on your mask. You put on your face mask. You can't go into 7-Eleven unless you put your face mask on. Now, I've also become relatively compliant through osmosis by being here for so long. So I did it. I didn't question it. I didn't get upset about it. I didn't jump on Facebook and say what an outrage it was. I just put my face mask on every time I went out of the house. And did that make a difference? Well, the statistics say that it did. So there's a certain amount of compliance needed from society to listen to what the government says. And in Thailand, it's exactly what happened. And you could say that was why we were successful.
Yeah, I mean, it's successful, but you're still in crisis, though.
Yeah, what happened is that we have only just come into a crisis because of a spike in a certain province that was created by a certain situation beyond everyone's control. And it just went kaboom through the whole country. And again, the government, very strict immediately. And today, in a lot of the provinces, it's the first day that there are, no viruses, no recordings, nothing. And I think that's because the government were like, bang, right, we have a problem. This is what you're going to do. If you're living in this province, you can't go to that province. And everyone just did it. And we're seeing the results 3 weeks later. This crisis is about 3 weeks old, this new one. And already the government have...
Yeah, interesting. It is interesting how these things work. Okay, I'm sure these will crop up again. Let me deal with something, Aaron, that you raised in your opening statement, which is a really important one. We've done a lot in these webinars over time about how the security sector has responded. Mm-hmm. And we've been hearing a lot about great performance on the one hand and poor performance on the other, and both, of course, are slightly inevitable when you're under the spotlight. But this issue about mental health now, Oddly enough, the next webinar we've got next week is on the mental health of frontline workers. All right, and this has come out of a previous webinar where people are concerned about what's happening to the mental health of security guards or security officers on the front line. You independently today raised this issue, but in the context of really security managers or crisis managers in organisations, do we know, Aaron, there's an issue with this, or are you just saying there must be? I mean, I'm just wondering where the evidence comes about the problem first before we start to tackle it. You know there's a problem.
The problem for me has just come through on the ground conversations with people. I've not read any research that proves that in the last 6 months there has been a percentage increase in security management leaders due to mental health issues, and it's been tested. All I'm saying is that people are now starting to realize that before COVID, there was a whole kind of Facebook social media push based on kind of loose positive psychology that everything is fantastic and you need to be happy every day and you need to be the best version of yourself. And everything was all about being happy all the time. And now security managers are starting to realize that your brain isn't designed to make you happy. Your brain is basically a threat management detection system at its basic core evolution. And when your brain detects a threat, even if it's not there, right? Because there's a whole different avenue about what's real and what's not real and perception and everything else. But if your brain perceives a threat, it will do certain things physiologically to your body, which you have no control over for the most part. Meaning that you're going to be doing your job running hot like a car on your what's called your sympathetic nervous system. You're high, you're hot, everything is blah, 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 blah. That's going to have serious consequences on you eventually.
Yeah, okay. And of course, there won't be research on this yet because it's all so new. So that's why I'm interested in what you're saying. These are sort of issues coming later. Okay, let me have a question. I'll come to you first, David, with the question. It's from Ali Al-Harthi. I hope I've said that right. He says, hello to David and Aaron. Nice to see you again. So he knows you both from Oman. Do you think there are more things the authorities can do in terms of awareness and educating the population? And it's talking about security airports have been, where security's been reduced, and wanting to search by hand, coming into close contact. So there's two things there, I guess, Dave, to start with. One is, what can the governments do, authorities do, in terms of security, education, and awareness? Sorry, that's a bit unusual. Phone that never ever rings because I didn't even know it was connected, it's just rung. And the second thing is, David, specifically about connecting with travellers. So David first.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Martin. The two questions here. One is the government's efforts. Government's efforts are basically driven from top down, all right? So usually the national crisis management team will actually dictate what is to be done and will come out with certain prescribed certain standards or certain guidelines for all areas of industry, right from education till sports. And that's number one. Number two, that the second one is the crisis communication effort. Like in Malaysia, I can share that every single day, the Director General of Health comes out and speaks to the public and giving them not only the statistical information, but also answering questions from the reporters who are actually trying to get some more information, yeah, from what is being said. That's number one. Number two, our Minister of Defense, okay, who sits on the National Council of also comes out every single day. So the crisis communication aspect is very important. Why? Because it keeps the public who are exposed to this pandemic, as well as these people, enlightened to know what's happening, how these people can react, how the public in the whole can react and help, yeah, to the pandemic. That's number one. The third one is, of course, social groups. Social groups are also helping to take care of each other. People are taking care of people. I walk into a store. And if I put a mask, my mask is always on. So when I walk into a store, and if I suddenly see the storekeeper not wearing a mask, another customer will just tell him, "Look, put on your mask." Yeah, and it is a very affirmative and that's affirmative action being done on the people of Malaysia. They're trying to flatten the curve for these efforts. That's your question. The first question. The second question on government borders. The borders are shut. Yeah, but not all, right? So flights are still coming in daily in, because the economic sector must carry on. Why? Because as what our DG has been mentioning, balance lives and livelihoods. The economy must carry on. Otherwise, it will fail, and it will be a disaster, a complete disaster which the country can never recover from. In that sense, that borders will some shut, sometimes remain open. Certain countries are not allowed to come. Certain countries are allowed to come, and we have of course, certain regulations, the standard operating procedures, the guidelines for travelers. Yeah, that's it. Back to you, Martin.
Yeah, David, just on this issue, one of the sort of specific questions, and maybe I'd like to draw on your more general security knowledge to this question, David. Al's question is about the fact that we can't get too close to one another, right? Does this impact on good security when, for example, at airports, when people are traveling, there won't be the opportunity, I suppose, to carry out personal searches in the same way? I mean, normally when you go through, if the buzzer goes off, you put your arms out and they do a search of you and we all take it as for granted. You can't do that now. I mean, is this a security weakness, do you think? I mean, if you're an offender, I guess you could use that to your advantage, perhaps.
Martin, regarding searches at airports, now physical distancing is a strict compliance issue in the airports here in Malaysia. In all the airports, yeah, by Malaysian Airport Berhad. Now, I've not traveled recently because I've not been allowed to travel because of the 14 days quarantine issue to travel up and down. But when I look at actually the implementation of certain new technologies which are available at the airport, you really don't have to pat down another person traveling. You don't have to do it because of the technologies implemented at the airport. And this gives a new perspective on the IR 4.0 implementation. Because of the rapid change, they have to actually, how should I say, acclimatize the industry fast, especially the travel industry. Yeah. Back to you, Martin.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much indeed. So Aaron, back to you then, the same questions from Al. It's about the sorts of communications that are coming from authorities, Aaron, in Thailand. What's happening and how effective is it in terms of raising awareness and engaging people in their response? Aaron.
Yeah, well, firstly, I would just like to suggest that any future webinars on aviation security, you should be indeed asking Ali Al-Hati. He is indeed the aviation security expert. So Ali, nice to see you again, my good friend. You should be answering this yourself. You're the one that has all this information, but I will do my best.
Funny enough, actually, just on that, Aaron, we do have a webinar coming up on aviation security. I will be in contact. I will be in contact. So Aaron, just your thoughts about, so the first point is about, it's an important one, and you're well placed. You're in Thailand, right? How's this communication aspect going? We're told that this is the big deal. How's it in terms of in a crisis communicate effectively? You pick up a textbook, and that's one of the big issues. How's it going in Thailand? And what's been the response, I suppose, of the policing and security sector from your perception, from your insights, Aaron?
Well, I'm unaware of any communication about that between the airport authorities and.
No, I meant the authorities to the public.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm unaware of anything that has to date been spoken about that. But I do deal closely with the airlines. And if Ali is interested to know, the main concern that airlines are talking to me about is how to improve the training of both cabin crew and security personnel at the airport. Because pre-COVID, we were dealing with a lot of people that were stressed just with life, going through the airport and taking that aggression out on cabin crew and taking that aggression out on security personnel at the airport. Well, if they were stressed before COVID, this is going to be a whole new level of stress, having, to go through all the new measures, whatever they may be. And I know David alluded to technologies, and I know in the past those technologies were absolutely kind of persona non grata from countries like America because of privacy issues, because you could see the outline of certain parts of your anatomy. But I think what you may find is those technologies now will be absolutely a must, because it's the only way to really see what someone is carrying, both outside and inside. But the point is, the stress levels of the people are going to be heightened, and people need to know how to deal with that. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of disruption and disruptive behavior.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the point. And how well prepared do you think? And I'm just thinking specifically here, Aaron, about the security sector. Mm-hmm. How well prepared do you think the security sector is for this new type of world's going to emerge, where people are stressed, people have got all that's gone with being in lockdown or restrictions for so long are going to be let free out there? I mean, to what extent is the security sector prepared for what comes next? To what extent could it be prepared for what comes next? The new normal, so to speak, Aaron.
It's always good to be a little controversial, right? So let's be a little honest about the security industry as a whole, especially in aviation. I'm sure Ali Al-Hati will agree. Aviation security is, for the most part, a very reactive industry. So, somebody puts a bomb in their shoe and the next day everyone searches the shoe. It's reactive. No one was searching the shoe before Richard Reed got on a plane. And I think you may find a similar thing here, that everything will open and then there'll be a certain degree of sitting back and seeing what is happening and then reacting on the fly and according to budget. I mean, let's not ignore the fact that aviation security is also heavily directed by how much budget there is to do what they need to do and to prioritize what little money they have left, because the whole industry has been decimated. So where's this budget coming from? I mean, they can barely stay flying anyway as it is, let alone budgets for security training, which historically was always at the bottom of the list anyway. So I don't know. I really look forward to seeing what's going to happen. Again, Ali Al-Hati, let's see what he has to say.
Okay, well, that'll be in the future. David, just over to you in Malaysia then. So what's your sense of, you in your opening statement were quite positive, I thought, about how the security sector responded. You made the same point that Aaron did, that there have been restrictions, but you also said that they'd be designated essential workers, which suggests there was optimism that they were going to play a leading role. In your view, in what way has the security sector come to the fore, and has it done a good job? I mean, let me come to you first, David, and maybe Aaron, I could come to you with a similar question about Thailand, but David first in Malaysia.
Sure, thanks, Martin. Security sector, the private security sector has been essentially carrying on what is done in the past. They are the frontline personnel in the past as well as now. They are carrying on in their duties of risk management, crisis management, frontline sentry duties, patrolling officer duties, all because that the government has actually acknowledged them as essential workers.
Well, what does that mean, David? What does it mean to be an essential worker? What difference does that make?
Yeah, critical work to be done in security. Basically, what has happened is, like when you talk about the law enforcement bodies, the police, the fire brigades, the all frontline duties are being conducted as per normal, because the enforcement officers are checking at the roadblocks for non-compliance. The enforcement is strategically being done. Private security, on the other hand, take care of premises security. And most and all premises securities, although they are a bit suffering now because of the lack of commercial value on visitors and such because of the lockdown. They are being reduced. However, those who are sent out to do the security work are being actually given the chance or given the opportunity to perform their duties to the best of their ability. And this is important. Back to
Yeah,
you,
I mean,
Martin.
I get, but the point is, so they're not doing anything different. I'm just wondering what difference it makes to be called an essential worker. Has it got
Uh,
any? Does it make any? Is there any sort of special status or special privileges or special recognition that goes with being an essential worker?
the essential workers of the private security industries who go out to do their work, right? The security guards, the patrolling officers, they have the authority to actually move during the movement control order. That's the only aspect that government actually realizes. But they are given additional tasks, which are to actually monitor the temperatures of people coming into the premises. They also record down the visitors and the visitor logs books. They also do a lot of of course, siphoning or rather what is called as the essential access control duties, which they have to do at their own premises, which they take care of. So this is actually a very good and noble job which they are doing, yeah, within their area. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
Martin.
absolutely, absolutely. I just one final point with you then, David. Is your sense that the security sector has grown in stature as a consequence of the crisis, or has it just been work as normal? I'm just interested to know whether the crisis has been an opportunity for the private security sector to be seen for being effective or diligent or what have you.
Essentially, Martin, you are right. Because of the crisis, these private security suppliers and the services providers, they have been given higher status now. Essentially, yes. However, they are also subject to the ministry's control. Given the fact that even though they've always been under the control, but now they've been given a higher area of responsibility and acknowledgement by the government of Malaysia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. There's the initiative here, spearheaded in part by Mike Reddington, was along the same lines, and it was trying to say that here's a chance for the security sector to be recognised in a time of crisis. Interesting. Aaron, situation in Thailand. Very interested to know where what your perception is of how the security world's performed.
Well, when you invited me to speak, I sent out an email to my close friends at a C-suite level to gauge what they may have to say about it, right? And half of them came back and said, we don't work there anymore. We've lost our jobs.
Wow.
Because if you think about it, a lot of companies, especially startups from a year or two ago, are struggling to just maintain their basic infrastructure framework and keep the company running. And people are losing their jobs left, right, and center. And security staff are losing their jobs at a C-suite level. I mean, there's no way that a company can sustain this economic battering and keep a solid security team that they did pre-COVID. The money's just not there. So is it a time for security management to shine? Absolutely. And for those that are lucky enough to keep their positions, I'm sure they are shining. And they're learning very quickly that in 2021, their remit is going to have to include health procedures and how their physical security and risk assessments and everything else will now encompass one more genre, right? But only for those that are lucky enough to have survived. And I would say, from what I'm hearing, that a large portion, I don't know the percentage, wouldn't want to guess, but a large portion of people, they're unemployed.
That is just really striking. In your sense, that and it's slightly inevitably, right? Slightly inevitably in an economic crisis, we're going to get companies cutting back. And when they cut back, it's not unusual to see security a key part of the cutbacks.
Always been that way, right?
Right. What about the people that you've mentioned quite a bit about crisis management professionals, which is, of course, sometimes security and sometimes separate. It depends on the company.
Oh, absolutely.
But thinking of those group of people, and I suppose they've been at the height of this is their moment in time. You know, crises fortunately don't happen every day and every year, but when they do, it's their chance to shine. Is your sense that they have performed well?
Yeah, I mean, the companies that have a culture of commitment to the security department have, in my experience, been the ones that have not laid off security staff, because they realize this is the time that they need to be ensuring that their C-suite security team are well looked after. Because if it wasn't for those people that were managing the crisis of their assets, both human, physical, and the brand during this, that they would really have nothing at all. So in one regard, I would say this has put the spotlight on the security teams, especially crisis management teams. And companies are now realizing that absolutely an essential part of the management team.
Yeah, you know, it's very interesting you say that. Actually, we had a webinar a few months back on crisis management, and one of the experts on the panel said, you know, if you weren't good before the crisis, you're not going to be good in it. You know, there's the whole sense in which you have to be ready and you have to be professional. Okay, Aaron, I'm going to ask you both just for one final comment because we're running out of time. Just in 30 seconds, if you wouldn't mind. Aaron, I'll come to you first. What do you see as the next essential step for the security sector? As we're moving into this new normal, hopefully soon, but as we're moving into it, what's the essential opportunity? What do you see as the essential issue for the security sector? I'll go to Aaron first, then David. Final comment, please, Aaron.
Okay, final comment would be that more budget assigned to training, both what I spoke about before, training for yourself to manage your emotions, and plus training to learn about the new normal, to increase your understanding of cybersecurity, to increase your understanding that this is the time when you're in dire trouble, that the criminal world are rubbing their hands together and finding a great opportunity to steal what you have. So an increased knowledge base in various facets of security: cyber, controlling yourself, and physical security, dovetailing into public health issues. That's the direction. Aaron,
fantastic, thank you. Funny enough, I've just done a webinar myself early this morning in Southeast Asia, and I made a similar point, Aaron.
There you go, you see.
David, final comments, please.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Actually, I agree with Aaron. Yeah, it's practical and prevention and control aspects of a very practical outlook on security. I also feel that for Malaysians in Malaysia, this is the opportunity to actually professionalize the industry, to move forward. Yeah, when I say professionalize the industry, I also mean that to actually the frontliners need a professional standing. When they are out of a professional standing, they can actually exert certain authority on especially incidents and evaluations. During the COVID-19, the transit from before the COVID-19 to the COVID-19, especially the COVID-19 period, when the transition was happening, I felt that it was important that the professionalization of the frontliners, just like how we talk about professionalizing the nursing industry or the driving industry, is all based on a body. Now in Malaysia, there is attempt or there is efforts to form a professional body for private security personnel. Yeah, sentry duties, guarding personnel, patrolling officers, risk managers, and these are the ones that actually in Malaysia, if they are given professional standing, and there will be actually no issues on payments, no issues on ethics, professionalism, standards, because they all subscribe to one standard of the professional industry. Anyway, that's my take on this, and I think a lot of people will actually in Malaysia we are trying that way. Yeah, we're trying to go in that direction. Yeah, licensing private guards and so on and so forth. Yeah, go ahead.
Dave, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to end it there because we run out of steam, but a good note early on. Aaron, David, thank you so much for your time. That was a fascinating conversation. Don't forget, a copy of this recording will be on the website tomorrow, along with a blog. As they were talking, I was taking notes. Just very, very quickly, a few other things to mention. That the OSPAs are still open in Nigeria and South Africa on the 1st of March and the 15th of March. Look out for those. And while we're on the subject of the OSPAs, Aaron and Danny Chan and I are talking about bringing the OSPAs to Southeast Asia. Stand by for more announcements soon. The OSPAs Virtual Awards, the UK OSPAs are online. You can register. Watch this. This is a show you will never see anything like this before. The OSPAs UK Awards are online, 25th of February, free to attend. OSPAs with a difference. We've got a survey going. We would very much like, please, to get your views on the response of the security sector to COVID. Would you mind, please, just completing a survey for us? Fill in your views. We'd be very interested to hear them. Finally, just to say, we go through it all again. It's interesting, actually, that Aaron today, unbeknown to me, was going to mention the mental health issue. Next webinar on Tuesday is about managing the mental health of frontline workers. How well is the security sector doing? We've got 4 people talking about this, all taking a different view. So that's on next Tuesday at 3:30 Greenwich Mean Time. And on Thursday, the role of the GSOC. If you don't know what a GSOC is, it's about, well, the operations centre, how it's all happening and being controlled. We'll be doing that next Thursday. So thank you very much indeed to my panel. Thank you very much indeed to the audience for asking questions. Very much look forward to seeing you again. Hopefully it'll be next Tuesday, but wherever you are in the world, until we see you again, stay safe.